Welcome, everyone. I'm now calling this meeting to order. Please stand with us. We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Gallagher. Please remain standing after that for the Pledge of Allegiance. That'll be led by Alderman Brooks.
Heavenly Father, Lord, we come before you today to bless you, Lord. We know that our job as men and women are to bless you and enjoy you forever, Lord. And we thank you so much for the grace that you provided to each and every one of us that will accept it, Lord. And so today we ask you to be with us in our meeting, to help you to influence our decisions. And Lord, we thank you for this country we live in. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes from the July 7, 2020 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 7th, 2020 with any additions, deletions, or corrections.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is to reappoint another Ward 3 Planning Commission member, Mr. Ben Moore, with us tonight.
Not here for George asked me to.
Okay, yeah, we were going to swear him in,
Oh, is he?
so we'll need to do both. But no, if we can have a motion to go ahead and approve that.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve Ben Moore as the planning commissioner for Ward 3.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Ben Moore is not with us, is that correct? Anybody? All right, we'll do that at the next meeting. Okay, next on the agenda is authorization for adoption and advertisement of the FY20 amended budget. Mr. Chris Wilson.
Mayor Board, this is simply the authorization to advertise the amended adopted budget. There's nothing new in this amendment. It's the amendments that we've done throughout the years. It's come the time that we need to, by state statute, advertise the amendments we made in the same format that we did in July.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Gallagher. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And that motion carries. Next on the agenda is an agreement with PSI.
Yeah, this is the last board meeting. If you recall, we got a couple of agreements that were going to be associated with the bridge. Two of those agreements are going to be incorporated in the urban art contract. However, one of the agreements is going to be for geotech, and that will be outside their contract. So the board will need to approve the agreement with PSI for the mayor's signature for the geotech specs or the geotech work associated with the pedestrian bridge. And said this will be actually contract with the city, and they'll work with Urban Arc and or Dan Cordell on this matter. I don't know, did we table it last meeting?
This one wasn't, it's the other two, and I'm gonna address those in the mayor's report. The other two contracts were tabled, this was not.
This was not tabled.
To the best of my,
Yeah, this one just didn't take any action on. There's only one contract for the last meeting we did table, but that's not going to be approved by this board. It's being able to pass word through our.
we have a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Gallagher. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a revision to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 9, Section 9 and 10, regarding truck routes in the city.
And this is what we discussed last meeting, ad nauseam, regarding the routes. This is essentially put in ordinance format based on the discussion from last meeting, based on the recommendation from the planning department and police department. So tonight, authorization for the mayor to sign and the ordinance to go into Communicode regarding the truck routes.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the resolution, Mayor Board of Aldermen, City of Southaven, amending the Southaven Code of Ordinances Title 9, Chapter 1, Section 9 through 10, and authorizing you to sign. That's presented stated.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution for donation for the golf. It's for a golf tournament entry fee to support the DeSoto Economic Council. Salute to industry. What is the amount?
$700. Okay. The same resolution, same amount we've done last 7 years.
Adopt the resolution, Mayor Board of Aldermen, City of Southaven, for donation to the City Economic Council, salute to industry, $700.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, just adding to that, we do need some representatives of the city to play golf. So whoever wants to play, please let Christy. Joel can't play, I'll send you to play. Just let Christy know who can play golf, and we'll put together a team to support. It's a big tournament, big fundraiser for the Economic Council. Big deal. So just let Christy know if you can play. Okay, hearing no other comments, roll call, please.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the acceptance of the bid for the Snowden Soccer Concessions building.
We accept the bid of $675,950. The Snowden Grove Soccer Concession as presented. Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion?
Lowest bid, yeah. Murphy and Sons, sorry, Murphy and Sons. My bad. Authorize the mayor to sign all contracts. Authorize the mayor to sign all contracts.
And then the only other thing the board needs to know is that when we did our parks enhancement and expansion plan, the amount of money that we had allocated in there was 600, so it's a little bit higher than we had allocated. So instead of tapping into the, that's coming out of tourism, instead of tapping into that, we had some money in budget line 412. Wes felt like he could go without for the rest. He realized he's not going to need it the rest of the budget year, and so we just did we're just requesting to use that money to make up the difference. That way we don't encumber any of our other tourism budget lines. How did we have that on the, no,
It didn't increase the budget.
it didn't increase, okay. Okay, just wanted y'all to be aware of that. If you're looking at the if you look back at our enhancement plan, C600, you'll know.
I was wrong,
What
But
is,
they're recommending the add-on.
Yeah.
right, what is the add-on?
It's the fencing it's the fencing, just have a long-term better aesthetic view, and rather than, we could go a cheaper route, but we feel like it's gonna be add to me there. That's the way I understand it, that long-term it was worth the difference because it's gonna last longer and look better.
It's on the deck overlooking the irrigation pond.
Yeah. But as far as the look of it, what would be, the alternate would just be, you'd have a rail instead of a
Chain link versus
Chain.
cable.
Yeah, yeah, just my thought process, if we're doing if we're doing put $6 million into that, we ought to make it look good. I mean, for $20,000. Okay, is there any other discussion about that? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is a donation to Southaven Intermediate School, donating 4 garbage cans to Southaven Intermediate School. Got a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Kelly. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda is park facility rental variance.
This is for parks for alcohol use at the Snowden House for a fundraiser for Josiah Coleman running for Supreme Court. I think Governor Phil Brown will be there with him as well. And they turned in the forms, and Josiah's Justice Coleman is currently the Supreme Court Justice right now, and they've asked for a variance for the alcohol to be used for this fundraiser.
We've got a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution to clean private property.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a resolution granting authority to clean private property presented on the city. Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
I did fail to ask, was there anyone in the audience, it's not too late, that wants to speak on any of the property? Okay, my bad on that, no more. So we'll move on. Next on the agenda is the planning agenda. We don't have anything tonight, so we'll move into mayor's report. First of all, just so I don't forget, for the Chamber magazine, we have a photographer that has requested that all of us meet in front of the city entrance sign, that Northwest Drive, the new brick monument sign, to take a photo to go in the Chamber magazine. And so if all of you will, just wear a suit, or if you got any kind of dark suits, wear a dark suit if you can. And we're going to do that at 5:30 or 5:30, next board meeting. Okay. All right, and then want to acknowledge a guy in our city, a volunteer. We've talked so much about our Serve Southaven program and trying to beautify our city and improve our image, and we've come a long way in doing that. And for whatever reason, we have a subdivision entrance that didn't have an HOA somewhere along the line back in the early 2000s or late 90s, whenever it was, Rutland Point on Getwell. That subdivision did not have an HOA. Now, as y'all know, that we require HOAs for any new development, so that problem has been resolved. But what happens is you have the city entrance that is not public property, it's private property. But when you try to hold one person accountable for that, it's like a common area. So it's very, very difficult to hold one person accountable for owning that property because it was designed, to be a subdivision common area. So the problem with that is no one's maintained it. So for I think several years now, I don't think anyone's touched the landscaping of it or just basically knocking the weeds out, trimming the hedges. And so I'll just be real honest. I was driving by it one day last week and I just couldn't take it anymore. I just literally could not take it anymore. And so I just did a Facebook post and begged the people of the city, would somebody volunteer? And I explained to them that it's private property and there's only certain times, like we just did, state law gets detailed, you can only go on the private property if it has a public benefit, benefits multiple citizens, or if there's a public safety hazard. Well, what we just did is tall grass and weeds. Well, when you have rodents and snakes, that's obviously a public safety hazard for the people that live around you. So that's why state law allows the city to go in after the board approves that and do work on a piece of private property. But a subdivision entrance, you can't make that argument. It's not weed. It's not an area big enough, to where it's going to have rodents and snakes. So it's just kind of in no man's land, So that's why we need the help from volunteers. And I just want to give some credit to Mr. Brent Smith. I did the Facebook post, and I think within an hour, he said, "Hey, Mayor, I'll knock that out tomorrow for you." And so when he first said that, I'm thinking, I've kind of heard that before. I'm hopeful. And when I tell you this guy delivered, the next day, it was not just, trimming some bushes and pulling some weeds, which I would have been satisfied with. He did a professional job. This thing, he pulled out the dead shrubs. He weeded, pulled out every weed. He remulched it. And I challenge everybody to go by and look at it. It just really is super. So the reason I'm spending so much time talking about it, it's a big deal. It improves property values. Property values decrease crime. Pride in your neighborhood goes way beyond just trimming the hedges of a subdivision entrance. So thank you, Brent Smith, and I challenge everybody else, if anyone has any time and would like to volunteer, to help us improve property values in our city. We have a few others like that, and you can contact Tracy Gallagher, who is our Serve Southaven director at serve@southaven.org, or contact my office and I'll put you in touch with her. And so I appreciate Brent Smith and anyone else that wants to step up in the future. Moving on, again, about a topic that we've heavily discussed, Lehman Roberts, our paving contractor, their contract is coming up for renewal shortly this year. And Lehman Roberts does a great job. These people have been paving streets for decades and before most of us are born. They do an incredible job paving. But I don't mind telling you what I've told them many times. I don't like it when they start a job for us and they leave to go to another job. It causes confusion for our citizens. Basically when a street's done, there's three phases. You have patching. They have to go in and patch the really bad spots. Then you have milling, where they have to saw the edges off so the asphalt meets the curb line. And then you have the actual overlay, which is the paving of the street. Well, so many times Lehman Roberts, they make us what's called a sandwich job. Like when they don't have a bigger job, they'll come and knock out our streets. Well, a lot of times they get caught in the middle. Like they do have different crews, but they'll have a crew come in for patching, then a crew come in for milling, and then they may go to another job. Well, that street may sit there for sometimes a month, and y'all know this because y'all got the calls too. The citizens, what it looks like to them is that you didn't finish, or that I'm just going to patch your street this year, I'm not going to pave it. So there's not thousands, but there's a lot of calls that come in about, hey, are y'all going to come back and finish it? It's a nightmare. And so I beg Lehman Roberts to not do that, to come in, finish the job before you move on to another. So that was one of the reasons that, we're going to test the waters and see what is out there as far as other contractors for this. Lehman Roberts has made a recent request because of COVID-19. A lot of the other cities and counties and entities have had to trim their street improvement budgets. So that affects, obviously, the demand for their services. So they made an offer to us if we would extend their contract for 1 year to help them get through COVID, and their return promise to us is that they would send their own crew. We'd have our own crews, not like what I'm explaining to you, where they're here, they'll go to another job. They are designated just to Southaven streets until the end of the year. They even said that they believe that they can do every street on our 2021 budget by the end of 2020. Well, another thing is Dan Cordell will tell you that he's tired of getting calls from me about, because I'm asking him about it. When it's September and October, there is no better time in the Mid-South to be paving the streets. It typically doesn't rain much. The weather, the temperature is perfect for overlay. It's usually 80 to 85 degrees, sunshine every day. And when we're not paving the streets of the city, I need mental counseling. I mean, it drives me nuts when we don't have anybody paving the streets in September and October. So they've agreed to take our list, if we'll extend their contract 1 year, and make an effort to do all of our streets before the weather gets cold in November. We're going to add to that contract a stipulation where there's a limited amount of time between patching, milling, and overlaying to keep them on the job where they're not leaving us. And also, we have to give them the credit for weather, but we're going to put in the contract where the plan is to finish our streets by the end of the year. So it's my recommendation tonight that we make that deal with Lehman Roberts, give them a 1-year extension in return for those promises. We got a motion by Alderman Flores, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Did I leave anything out, Dan?
No, sir.
Okay.
You need authorization, yeah, on the final change order.
Authorization for the mayor to execute a change order with Lehman Roberts, consistent with those terms, and upon the mayor's approval, it'll be here for the minutes of the next meeting.
Okay, that's your motion? That's your second? Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 Okay, that motion carries. All right, then the last thing tonight, we tabled, like Alderman Flores mentioned earlier, at the last meeting, we had some questions that came up about the pedestrian bridge on the traffic engineering agreement. And there's 2 ways we could do this, and we talked to Urban Arc. We had we agreed that we would do it the other way, where we would contract directly with the traffic engineers, and that would be outside of Urban Arc's agreement. Some questions came up. I expressed that I had some discomfort with that. My goal is I don't want to put the city in a situation where, where the questions aren't answered. I've never built a bridge before. It's not the first time it's been done. It's common, it can be done. I just think it's better for the city that we have a point man, like we do all our other stuff, that we have one point man and we roll the other professional services into that master agreement. It's going to cost us a little more money. It's going to cost us about $10,000 more to do it that way. But I believe it's better, and Nick reviewed it with Nick. He also believes it puts the city at less risk to do it that way. Urban Arc has agreed to do it that way. So I'm asking for, again, a change order to the contract to allow Urban Arc to include the traffic engineering services into their master contract. What that, like I said, it amounts to a $10,000 total difference. Because of that, their total fee on the total deal, including all engineering services, architectural design, and oversight, amounts to $187,000. So I'm asking for the board to approve that change order tonight. We got a motion by Alderman Gallagher, second by Alderman Brooks. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes.
No.
Yes.
Recused.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries.
That will be here, once that change order is signed, it'll be here for the minutes of the next meeting.
Okay, and that concludes my mayor's report. Next on the agenda is our citizens' agenda. We had a gentleman that signed up to speak, Mr. Paul Hamlin. Mr. Hamlin, would you come forward, please?
I want to present to the mayor and the board. I've already talked to the mayor before. I live at 8210 Elmwood Drive, Summerwood subdivision. And I understand about private property, but when a ditch runs through private property and covered, and then in 8186 last year on Elmwood, my neighbor, the city replaced their cover, and they paid for it, the city did. And then 2 years before that, in 8156 Elmwood Drive, they replace their cover and pay for it. But they're telling me they're not paying mine. And I'm out there when the water is rushing down underneath my cover, and it's pushing the cover up. And 2 years ago, I fixed a sinkhole on the west side of my driveway. Put about 20 bags of 80 pound of concrete in it and put dirt in it. Then on the south side of the west side, I got a hole this big. And my driveway's cracking up there, and I'm told that the city's not gonna do anything about it. But, you know, what is when a ditch runs through a middle of a driveway? I know the city agreed to take on Summerwood, voted to take it in. But when you got these issues and the city's doing for other people and they're not gonna do for me, I don't think that's right. And I've seen the city in the past couple of months where they had backhoes out scraping in ditches in my subdivision, putting sod in. Matter of fact, at 8840 Oakwood, which is a couple months ago, then at 8265 Oak Leaf Circle last week did this. The utility department did this, not who y'all have contracted out to do work for y'all. So I've been told there's not an easement right. So what is considered a ditch private property? That's what I'd like to know.
Well, if I may, I have our engineers with us tonight, and I asked him to bring the history of it to make sure we answer your questions. And when you're not talking on the phone, what I told you is, and I remember when the work was done, because I'm actually involved with the engineering contract, our engineer, in the drainage improvement projects, which ones we can do by state law, which ones we can't. We prioritize that, and so I remember it because I remember discussing it. But then when you called, I called him again just to refresh my memory on everything that happened. So I think the biggest thing that I can probably do to clarify, and then I'll bring him up for details, is that one of the projects that was done near your house is a public drainage culvert. So that's on public property. So when we go to do work on public property, we realize that for that to be effective, it is also affected by one of the driveway culverts. So one of the private property residents that you mentioned, we had to do work on private property for our project to work on public property. So the difference in hers and yours is yours did not affect the public project, but that property did. So for the public project to work, we had to do that work. That's the reason work was done on the private property. Now, there's one other thing that I know. You have a neighbor that chose to use the same contractor that the city used to change their culvert. The city did not pay for that. That was work, they contracted with the same contractor. I know it looks that way, and I can certainly
I'll
say.
talk to him. I'm not here to cause a big stink, but I talked to Mr. Hale myself. I know him since he moved in. He told me definitely the city had paid about it. I've asked about it. I've asked my alderman about it, and the records show that the city did it, but it didn't show where nobody paid. So,
Dan, you come, I'm not, no, I don't, that's.
so you know, the whole thing is, I'm going to sit down in just a minute. I'm not trying to interrupt you. But I'm a citizen of this city. I've been a citizen for many years. I pay my taxes.
Yes, sir.
You know, so to me, I feel like I'm not important to the city. So I don't really need to be a citizen of this city anymore. That's really the way I'm being made feel.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, and that's what I hope you'll give us a few minutes, because I don't want you to leave here tonight feeling that way. So I
Well,
promise you
if
that's.
something's not going to be done for me, I'm going to feel that way.
Well, we can't do something that's illegal, and we're not going to do something that's
Well-
illegal, but it's not what you said. I'm sorry that you feel that way, and we certainly don't want you to feel that way, and that's why this gentleman is here. I want
Well,
him to
I'm
explain.
not going to bring up anybody else's name, but I know what I was told by a previous person. And, you know, you're the mayor, y'all are the board, y'all do what side y'all want to do, but you know, it's just right's right and wrong's wrong, and I feel like every citizen should be treated fair. That's my opinion.
I agree with you. Please don't leave just yet if you don't mind. I'm trying to answer your question. So, Dan.
All right, I'll stay up.
Yeah, no, seriously, I'm not, I want you to be, I don't want you to
I'm
leave.
just trying to give the floor to him, that's all I'm.
Yeah, I just don't want you to leave here feeling like you got shafted, okay? Because I promise you, that's not what's going on here.
Well,
And
one
I-
other thing too, there's a hole. I'm not talking about the hole right near my driveway, where y'all did work, in the ditch. The west side of where the drain cover comes out, there's a hole this big. Where it's washed out. It's in the ditch.
by the city culvert, by the road culvert.
No, by my cover, where y'all did the grade and all that, and put sod in there, there's a hole. And water standing there was a long rain.
Well, if work that we did caused a problem on your property, we do have the right to do work there. So we can definitely go back and look at that again. That's not a problem at all.
And somebody was supposed to come look at it, so I don't know if
Yeah.
they did or not. I mean, I talked to some people from the city's been and all that, like I say, I'm not trying to cause hard
Oh, I know.
feelings between you and I, or anybody, but I just know what I've been told in the past, by past aldermen, I know what said was gonna be done, for me not to worry about it, so, but that's all we done.
Now, you just brought up another issue. Now, I can't be accountable for what somebody else told you.
I understand that.
Yeah, I can't be accountable for somebody misspoke in the past. All that I promise you tonight is I can tell you why what's happened out there has happened and to show you what's different about the two. So Dan, would you walk us through that?
Yes, sir, I will, and hopefully this will help shed some light. I will say this, as y'all all know, drainage is a complex decision. We've made our own policy about it that the city passed to try to get qualifying funds if it benefits more than one person and that type of thing. This actually dates back to 2015, I think, 14, 15. Mr. Terrence actually first brought it to my attention to come look at it. Not at his address, but up the street where Elmwood Drive and Elmwood Cove intersect. Miss Sater house lives there. Miss Sater lives there. We had two culverts across at that intersection. Both of them were underwater. We had a complaint from the south side, which I think is 8090, and I've given 8090 to the south and 8151. Both of those houses in Miss Sater were complaining about the water standing. The water was standing in our pipes. You couldn't even see the pipes. There's some pictures. I don't know if you shared the information on our packet that we had kind of been developing history on. But in looking at it, we surveyed, checked grade basically from his culvert north to where it was daylight, to where the drainage would work. Her culvert was sunk in the ground approximately 2 feet. So it had to be changed. It was backing water up on our pipes, the other three houses. And so the only way to correct our pipe was to fix that pipe, raise it up. We had to go get permission from her. Typically, as y'all know, private drives, we have a public infrastructure, public streets built to our standards, or we accept them. But private drives or private culverts are the homeowners, they're the individuals. They can put in, unless they are impacting the drainage somewhere, they can use any pipe material, any thickness of driveway or anything. That's why we're not typically responsible for them, because they're not necessarily to any standard. And thus, we can't go back out there and fix a standard, this is what we do to a driveway, because it's one of them different. But in this instance, hers was impeding the flow on two of our structures plus two neighbors. And so what we did was raise her culvert and channelize or reestablish the ditch. It had been, sediment had built up due to lack of flow, all the way down to basically his culvert upstream. Actually, the grades worked out between 8210 and 8186, which is his immediate neighbor essentially to the south. That was the first project we did. All right, once we got the water off of it, we did it in a phased approach because we didn't know what our structures were like then. We just knew they were underwater and they were metal, so we knew they were going to rust out. So 2 years later, budget allowed, we go back out and our culverts are gone. We're starting to see the structure. So we replaced the two culverts across our road now that the water's gone off of them. We put concrete in, so now we've got positive drainage, no issues with our neighbors. During the process, there's a drawing showing a green culvert crossing around 8151, which is to the west side of him across the street. There's a pipe crossing Elmwood Drive again, that again water backed up, and corrugated metal pipe rusted out, so we've replaced it now with concrete. I know of at least one, as the mayor said, as a matter of fact, the previous alderman, while our contractor was out there, had some driveway issues, they contracted direct with our term contractor for him to fix it. I attached what I could find, based off of our history of the project, the invoices that have been submitted on our behalf for approval. And we show the work that was indicated here. So now the other items that you're bringing up about utility company fixing sod or whatnot, now that could very well be we haven't looked into that, it's the first time I heard of that, but it could very well be pipe. I don't know what the utility company's doing out there, other than what we depicted.
Utility company has done work out there, but that's a different issue. That's a
That could
water.
be ceasefire or our guys, I'm not
Right,
sure.
we did some work out there. Yes, sir, right now.
Yeah, we did fix a few leaks over in that area, and as part of the cleanup, we would sod the yard back wherever we dug up. But, it would require going after the ditch and back up to the meter, so.
The first rule we have, though, we typically, as a policy, do not touch private driveways because of the reasons I suggested. They're privately installed, you can move them, they need to be maintained. Only time we adjust them is when it's impacting public property, impacting something that we're gonna have to fix, our road, our infrastructure, our culverts. Or, according to our drainage policy, if it can be done to the benefit of more than one property owner. In other words, if there was a drainage issue and heating flow, it would meet our policy to do an adjustment on private property to benefit multiple citizens out there. This kind of had a little bit of all that in it, up to that point. Now, his culvert, the drainage, the structural work, so did the one to the south. So that's my history and how we got to where we're at on the project. Yes, sir.
Is this culvert located on the right of way?
Which one? His?
Yes.
Actually, the property lines are, we didn't survey it, but according to GIS, I literally think the property line is running across the top of his lot. So it's partially on the right of way, partially off the right of way, so was hers. One time when we talked with Nick at the time, hers was impacting us, Ms. Sager. We went on and got permission because it was halfway on, halfway off. But again, even if it's on our right of way, private culverts or driveway culverts are private culverts.
The second question is you replace those other two there, and by fixing that problem, did it create a problem with this because of more water flow going through there?
My personal knowledge is the raise, the water comes at a lot faster pace. You get a lot of rain, and I understand that it comes over my driveway, it lives uncovered up, and washes the dirt and the gravel out. I know what I personally think. No, I don't have pictures, and I know I should.
I don't know if you have to back it, I provided pictures, we actually took pictures of his culvert, all the culverts, before we did the work in 2014, we looked again in 2020, upon his request for do additional work, I think he had some people out there to price the things, so those are included. I don't see a significant difference, there may be a washout in front of his, and again, that's a maintenance issue, no problem with fixing that. The drainage did not change, as far as the area. All we did was clean ditches out. In other words, the ditches that were there, to handle the water that was already there, there's no new impervious area, we cleaned ditches out. That had been filled up over a 30, 20 year period. Now, when it was first established, those ditches existed. But what happens is when you impede water flow, it slows it down and you'll get sediment built out over time. They'll sediment in and they have to be cleaned out. Public Works continuously cleaning out ditches.
So whenever you replace these two other culverts, it did speed the water.
The same size culverts. All we did was raise the grade so that they would flow. So the water that's still going there. It just made, before it's ponding water, and then ultimately it's still getting there.
You made it like it was originally before
Correct.
all the stuff were up there.
How much are we talking about? What is the cost? To do with recycling, what kind of money is it?
We got figures there.
Yes.
I don't know that we've priced what, he's just replacing the culvert in his driveway. I don't know, I'm gonna throw a figure out, maybe $5 grand, $4 grand, $3 grand, I don't know exactly, that time, we haven't priced that.
But the issue is, as Alderman Flores mentioned, we have a drainage policy, Paul, that is consistent with state law. That's when we made that. We went by city attorney, we went by exactly what the state law says we can do about it. And I promise you, I'll be the first one to tell you, I love to solve drainage problems. I love to help everybody. But the way state law reads is that it has to be something that benefits multiple property owners for us to go on private property, or it has to be something that the city did wrong. If the city caused your damage, then we have the legal right to go in there and fix it. But the reason that this other was done, as Dave just said, is because for our public property culvert to work, that had to be adjusted, or it'd be a waste of time, because once they go together, so it wouldn't work without the other.
I understand all that. My main thing is 8186, my next door neighbor. He told me, and had been proven to me, I had seen the papers, where it showed the city didn't pay for it, he paid.
Who is, and you don't have to say a name, but is that,
Mr. Hall, I'll tell you, that's my neighbor next door.
so he said the city did the work?
That's right. I
On
saw,
phase 2 is the next half.
was it Transformer, who does, y'all's work? They were out there last summer doing work.
Is that in the project, Dan?
No, sir. No, sir. We don't have record of that. That's not in any of those invoices.
Yeah.
And we see every invoice that they submit for drainage maintenance gets approved here, submitted through us. So, this is what we have on the list. Now, they did some work near his house to cross underneath Elmwood with a culvert.
Is that what he's talking about?
No,
He's talking about his private driveway.
I'm talking about Mr. L, our private property.
Yeah, I don't,
They cut the asphalt back around that, they dug it up, replaced the cover. They
yeah.
put gravel on it, stone gravel on it before, stone rock gravel. Then they came back later after it wasn't settling and put asphalt on
Okay, but you're not aware of that, Dan?
No, sir. The only work they did in 2019, the culvert that's in green, crossing Elmwood, is what we installed with concrete.
it. And this one ain't be an issue. If he told me, because like I told you, I did my own research.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna stand up for my rights, and that's what I gotta do.
Sure.
And I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to cause any problems. When this man tells me that, and there's no proof that the city didn't pay for it, he paid for it, that makes me feel like I'm being treated unfair.
Well, when did he say the work was done?
This is last summer. I can't tell you exactly what day. It was last, I saw it with my own 2 eyes.
Well, I mean, again, we would say, show me proof that the city paid for it. If it was a mistake. But Andrew, you do some research on the invoices on that. But I'm,
And
no.
I've been told the invoice has been shown where the work was done, but there's no invoice showing and nobody paid. That's what I've been told.
Well, and I don't know, but that could have been, I mean, if the contractor did that for him and didn't bill him for it, that's a question for the contractor.
Well, I understand, that's where my issue lies. That's what puts me right here today.
Yeah, no, I can see with that information, I can certainly,
I can tell you this, I can tell you this, and she can look it up, she can pull every invoice and try to firm them. But the invoices that were processed that we have related to these projects are right here, we provided them to all y'all. Pull up any other ones with that address, try to firm a list, every project name or address that they're working on, and then we review them. So, outside of that culvert last year crossing Elmwood, and you can go verify that there's a concrete culvert there now, that should be the only invoice you see.
Whatever date that was, because I was there when they was working on it, that's between Mr. Ferguson's yard and my yard. And that was fixed. Still holds water in his yard, but that's his mouth.
Yeah. Well, and that, like I said, his culvert was fixed probably within 6 weeks after that happened. Yeah. Well, this is the man that oversees that. It was not part of the city project, but we can research that and then reach out to, was it Tri-Firma that did the work?
Yeah, and she'll have every invoice has their number on it, and we can pull every one of them.
Yeah.
The only thing I ask for my right, if he paid for it, I want to see where he paid for it and how he paid it.
Well, first of all, we won't know if he paid for it or not. It doesn't
Like
come
you
through
say, the
us.
city paid for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can tell you the city paid for
But
it.
I know he told me he didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
And that's where I stand, and that's why I'm upset.
No, like I said, with that information, I can certainly see where you would look
I'm
that
really
way.
restrained, I paid a lot of days, not be really hostile.
I understand, and and I appreciate the way you presented it tonight. I mean, you have your questions are legitimate, and And my promise to you is just to try to explain, how we get there. We certainly are not doing anything to disrespect or to be unfair to any citizen. And I've just tried to do my best to explain it that way, because everything that we do with the drainage improvement is mirrors state law, what it allows us to do. And Mr. Hall's property, unless it affected public drainage, that's not a city project, So we can research
Yeah,
that.
we can research that real quick. It's not on this project list.
Yeah.
And it should not have been.
I just think to know as soon as I can. I need to get something done.
Yeah. We'll do two things.
My driveway is gonna flash pretty soon. I'm not gonna be able to get on my driveway.
Yeah. And we'll do two things quickly. We'll research. Andrew, you'll help me with that, please?
This has been going on for 3 months.
Yeah. And, but that's the thing is, and I would love to be able to give you different news or a different answer that's more favorable to you. But the bottom line is we can't fix a private culvert on a driveway unless it's affecting multiple people or a city drainage system. And so that's why we've done what we've done, or not done what we've not done. But two things I promise you, Andrew will help us. She's a city clerk. She'll go back and check the invoices for Mr. Hall's property, and we'll let you know about that. And the other thing is, you said that you have some sinkholes that you think could be related to the work we have done.
Yeah, the one in the ditch, yeah, I mean, it's not like that probably that deep. But you tell me the engineer was gonna come and check.
If we cause that, then we do have the right by state law to do that. So, Dan, we help you with that
I'm
too?
just trying to help create a worse problem, the mosquito and the snake and all that problem.
No, I certainly understand it. Well, thank you for coming forward, and we'll check on those two things and be in touch with you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to speak on the citizens' agenda?
Mayor, before we do again, I guess for you anyway. Is there any way we can have our code enforcement guys there, their shift a little bit, maybe that they work a little later to catch people when they're trying to come home? We're having a lot of problems over in my ward. And so the cars coming in, cars coming in the yard, 10 or 15 in the yard, that kind of stuff. And I just think if they, maybe a day or two a week, a few months, or several hours later, maybe.
You're saying later in the day or a
Yeah,
different
later in the
day?
day, like maybe get off at 7 or something like that, so.
Yeah.
So they can be out whenever these people are coming home, because that's when the basketball goals come out into the streets and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. Is there any way that, anything that can be done?
We can talk about that. We can, Austin's here. Austin, can you help me with that?
Yeah, I have a list. I work pretty much every night late, going around checking stuff. But certainly, if anybody, if you have any issues, you can call me after hours. Because I'm usually on call 24 hours. So
I was just wondering if we could adjust some schedules, so we have some guys working a little later, maybe one day a week, they can.
Well, the problem is a little more complicated than that, because if you altered it, you may have one in one ward, but then not in the other. It's like, you just take your chances then, because you're not covering the city. The way we got it set up now is we have coverage throughout the city. So you'd have, if you were doing it in one ward, you have to do it in all of them. If you
Maybe
want.
have one day a week, they work till 7 or something like that.
Yeah, well, let us do some, let me talk to Austin in detail about that, and I'll give you a report back. I'll check on that and see what we can do. You're welcome. Okay, no one else made an effort to speak on the citizens' agenda, so we'll move forward. The next item on our agenda is our personnel docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve personnel document for the state.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 That motion carries. Next on the agenda is our city attorney's legal update. Okay, nothing else. Next on the agenda are two claims dockets. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped the utility bill adjustment docket.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve utility bill adjustment document amount of $4,318.83.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next on the agenda are two claims dockets.
Mr. Mayor, I move we approve document number one, amount of $835,202.38 to the Cleveland Township.
On docket 1, we have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Flores. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 That motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, we approve document number 2 in the amount of $69.95.
We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Kelly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. That motion carries. Next on the agenda is the purpose of determining the need for executive session. We have a motion by Alderman Brooks, second by Alderman Hoots. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The need this evening is claims and litigation against the Southaven Police Department and economic development within our city. Is there a motion to declare executive session? We've got a motion by Alderman Hoots, second by Alderman Gallagher. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Ayes have it, motion carries. The mayor and board will now enter executive session.